Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 77th episode of In the Trenches, Kroll's weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. Today is the 18th of November, and my name is George Glass, an Associate Managing Director in the Cyber Threat Intelligence team. Joining me today from the CTI team are Mukesh Nagar, Dave Truman, and Sarah Becker. As always, we'll be covering the most recent trends that our threat intelligence team is witnessing in the trenches. So let's get into the situation report. First up is GoIssue, a new tool being marketed in cybercrime forums. It allows attackers to extract email addresses from public GitHub profiles and send bulk emails directly to user inboxes, all while protecting the operator's identity through proxy networks. GoIssue contact information leads to a Telegram profile linked to the GitLocker team, an actor responsible for ongoing campaigns that uses GitHub notifications and phishing emails to send malicious OAuth apps. Priced at $700 for a custom build or $3,000 for full source code access, GoIssue enables attackers to move beyond simple email scraping to launch complex, customized mass email campaigns designed to bypass spam filters and target specific GitHub developer communities. This isn't the only thing that we've covered targeting GitHub recently. Of course, we've had some info stealers spread via GitHub as well. So make sure that you've got all of your privacy settings locked down where possible. Next up, this is fairly recent. I've got some updates from just today. Palo Alto has disclosed that a vulnerability tracked as PAN SA 2024-0015 or CVE 2024-0015 affects next generation firewalls with a CVSS score of 9.3. Attacks have been reported in the wild by Palo Alto and are reported to affect a limited number of devices, which are configured to enable direct access from the internet, according to Palo Alto Networks. The Flaw allows remote code execution, unauthenticated, to gain control over the firewall management interfaces, potentially compromising network security. The vulnerability appears to affect about 8,000 exposed interfaces globally from our showdown scans. As of the 18th of November, actually just a few moments ago, Palo Alto has released patches to address this issue. So if you're running Palo Alto next-gen firewalls, ensure you are updating that as soon as possible. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, please get in touch with us using cti@kroll.com. That's cti@kroll.com. So let's get into the rest of today's briefing. Today we're going to cover the following trends. I am covering the November edition of Microsoft's Patch Tuesday. Mukesh will be covering the targeting of macOS Flutter applications. Dave has some news on KTA 162 or Vault Typhoon, recovering their disrupted botnet. And Sarah is talking about how a MOVEit related leak by the actor Aimless is generating headlines. So let's talk about Patch Tuesday. 92 vulnerabilities fixed, 52 of them are remote code execution vulnerabilities, 28 of them privilege escalation, 4 were tagged as critical, and 2 are 0 days. The first of those 2 0 days is CVE 2024-49039 with a CVSS score of 8.8. And this is a Windows Task Scheduler elevation of privilege vulnerability. The vulnerability was reported by Google Threat Analysis Group. And according to Microsoft, in this case, an attacker could perform a low privilege could be performed with a low image app container, apologies. The attack could elevate their privileges to execute code or access resources at a higher integrity level than that of the app container execution environment. Further information on the exploitation in the wild was not shared, but likely that is being conducted by some sort of advanced persistent threat. Next up is CVE 2024-43451, CVSS score of 6.5, and we have another flaw that discloses NTLM hashes. This vulnerability can be exploited to capture a user's NTLM v2 hash. According to Microsoft, minimum interaction with a malicious file by a user, such as selecting with a single click, inspecting with a right click, or performing an action other than opening or executing could trigger this vulnerability. This vulnerability was reported by ClearSky, who saw the vulnerability used as part of a phishing campaign which leveraged .url files to gather NTLM v2 hashes while also downloading SparkRat. Cert UA attribute this activity, that's Ukrainian cert, to a Russian-based actor, UAC 0194. And Crawl is now tracking this actor as KTAC 006. Crawl believes this vulnerability could have been exploited since at least April 2024. An interesting note, this activity also overlaps with the time frame that KTA 248, also known as TA 577, was using SMB shares to steal NTLM hashes. The last two vulnerabilities, they are publicly reported but not exploited. CVE 2024-49019, also known as IKUU, was described in detail by TrustedSec in October of 2024 because of its similarity with previous ESC1 and ESC2 attacks. There's more information about that in the report. The vulnerability allows attackers to manipulate certificate requests in Windows built-in version 1 certificate templates. They can then use that to certificate signing resources, craft certificate signing resources to include application policies that override the configured extended key usage. That's the EKU in IKUU. Using this, attackers can generate enrollment rights for client authentication, certificate request, agent access, and code signing. So potentially very, very serious vulnerability. Of course, the attacker needs to be present on the machine in order to conduct those sorts of things. It's our understanding that this is pretty much default for most Windows builds. Finally, CVE 2024-49040, CVSS score of 7.5. This is a Microsoft Exchange Server spoofing vulnerability. And this was first described by security researcher Vasilivod Kokorin, sorry about that, who also goes by the moniker Slonza in a May blog post. Again, there's more details about this in the report. The vulnerability allows attackers to forge legitimate sender addresses on incoming emails, potentially marking malicious messages appear trustworthy. The vulnerability arises from improper verification of the P2 from header using email transport, permitting non-RFC 5322 compliant headers to pass through and be displayed as legitimate. Note that Microsoft have paused rollouts of this update as of November 14th. Please refer to the Microsoft blog post for more up-to-date information. There were some issues with that update, apparently, according to Microsoft. So do be careful when performing that update and keep an eye out for new versions of the patch. Now over to Mukesh to talk about these macOS Flutter applications. Over to you, Mukesh.
Thank you, George, and hello, everyone. So recently, Jamf Threat Labs recently uncovered a macOS malware sample, which they've linked to APT Actors based in North Korea. These applications were developed using Flutter, which is a cross-platform development framework by Google. Now, Flutter applications are generally challenging to analyze as they do rely on a lot of obfuscation, dark code, when they are compiled into dynamic link libraries or libapp.dylibs and loaded at runtime by a launcher application called runner.app. The malicious application that has been spotted and analyzed by Jamf Threat Labs exploits Flutter's architecture in order to conceal true functionality and evade detection. Additional applications have been observed that have been signed and notarized by Apple, potentially being able to circumvent macOS security features. Additional variants of the malware has been observed, which include Go binaries, Python script packaged with Py2app, and Flutter-based applications, all which are capable of exfiltrating sensitive information as well as communicating with a command and control server. Now, what we do is we recommend users to have training on avoiding downloading applications from untrusted sources and to verify that the application is what it is being downloaded before installed. We also urge users to ensure that there is an EDR solution endpoint, which is capable of identifying unusual dynamic library loading as well as persistent mechanism as well. That's all from me. Back to you, George.
Thank you very much, Mukesh. And now we'll hand over to Dave for some news on KTA 162 or Vault Typhoon. Over to you, Dave.
Thank you. Security Scorecard reports that KTA 162, aka Vault Typhoon, is rebuilding its KV-Botnet after it was seriously disrupted by law enforcement in January. KTA 162 is a nation-state group associated with China by US law enforcement, known to target critical infrastructure organizations in the US and elsewhere. The US Justice Department has reported previously that the PRC-backed hacking group was targeting US communications, energy, transportation, and water sectors from a botnet of compromised small office and home routers, mainly Cisco and Netgear. Security Scorecard states that since the law enforcement takedown, KTA 162 has started to re-establish its botnet using new command and control infrastructure and routing traffic for the Pacific islands of New Caledonia, and that they are targeting outdated routers to spread the Mirai-like malware and web shells. It is important to keep edge devices such as routers up to date and replace them if they reach end of life. It is also recommended to use strong passwords and turn off UPnP and remote admin access where possible. Thank you. George.
Thank you very much, Dave. Really very interesting. And finally, today we will go to Sarah for some MOVEit related leaks. Apologies. Over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, George. The threat actor Nameless around November 8th released various companies' data pertaining to the critical MOVEit vulnerability, and that was CVE 2023-34362. And this obviously led to a very substantial leak of organizations' information back in May 2023. The threat actor so far has released at least 27 different data sets containing sensitive employee information, and within that information, it includes names, email addresses, organizational structures, cost center codes, and phone numbers. And this information is being released in separate posts on the Dark Web Forum breach forums. So in addition to Nameless posting these various companies' stolen data, the threat actor also included a manifesto within some of these posts, just claiming that they are not a hacker, but they do utilize their own skill set to track ransomware sites and use their own tooling to auto-find AWS, Azure, and other open buckets. So within this manifesto that the threat actor posted, they kind of detailed their methods by listing out just the following, quote unquote, saying, I download everything I can from ransom group Tor sites and form open cloud services. Once I have it, I then clean the data and remove duplicated from the source, and sometimes remove fields, columns where the data is useless. The threat actor continues going on, just talking about downloading the entire databases that are exposed. And they also say that they are not going to sell the data, and they do not solicit asks for specific data or access to the storage where they have it. Nameless also continues in their manifesto, just that they want the government to hold companies liable for these various incidents and to take PII data seriously. They said that their last straw was an instance when Connor Goodwolf was sued for talking about how the mayor was downplaying the scope of the ransomware attack for the city of Columbus. So we are continuing to monitor Nameless's posts on breach forums just to see if any more company databases are being reposted or if there's anything else coming about. I know Nameless has recently stated that they have around 10,000 different databases, so we will just continue to keep an eye out for what they are going to post. That's all for me, George.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Yeah, thanks for that rundown. It's generating a lot of news at the moment, so thank you very much. And thank you also to Mukesh and Dave for also presenting today. I'm afraid that's all we have time for this week. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us using cti@kroll.com. That's cti@kroll.com. Have a wonderful day.